This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. The recent decision to cancel out-of-province surgeries is leaving some Manitobans angry. One Winnipegger believes he'll be left in pain longer. CBC's Ian Fraze reports.
63-year-old Myron Karalik is walking with purpose.
You got up a lot better now than you do sometimes.
Yeah. Marilyn has seen her husband's condition deteriorate. He needs surgery for his spinal stenosis to walk and stand without pain.
Oh.
How are you feeling?
Tired.
It's hard.
Painful.
This is Myron's life.
We had some hope in the fact that we could get surgery done in Fargo. And now with the new government canceling all of that, that's a sinking feeling. Like it's just, what do we do?
Nearly 800 surgeries performed outside Manitoba in the last 2 years since the former PC government created a surgery task force. In November, the NDP ended the program. The Karaliks are disappointed.
And sending people out of province until we're caught up here.
Until we're fixed.
So that when someone does need surgery, so we wait a month or two, like that's fair. But a year or two, it's not fair.
Myron expects to wait as long as 2 years. Until then, he spends most of his time on the couch.
Our family doctor said more than likely, because this is not going to get better.
He's no longer taking vacations down south, fishing, or cooking.
I had a very strong, vibrant husband. Sorry. It's so hard to watch him walk.
Hey, where's the ball?
A few months ago, Judy Waychuk also struggled to get by.
Toast and cereal were big. I couldn't put together a meal. I couldn't stand up that long.
Now she can be there for her dogs again.
I know. Yes, I know. Ball is there.
She went to North Dakota for her first hip surgery because it was faster.
I would still be waiting right now if I hadn't done that.
She saddened other Manitobans won't have the same opportunity.
If they can get the surgery in Manitoba in a decent amount of time, that would be one thing. And hopefully, those issues are going to be addressed.
The government is counting on it.
It's so important to recognize that people being able to get care in their own communities, where their families are, where their communities can support them, where they can recover safely or navigate any complications in the safest way, that's the approach that we need to take in our province.
More staff are promised, but they haven't all been hired.
I think the NDP has put the cart before the horse. The first thing I think that needs to happen is a robust staffing plan.
Before Waychuk returns to Mexico for winters, she's heading to North Dakota for her second hip surgery. It was booked before the government canceled the program.
I won't climb mountains, but I'll be scrambling up Mayan pyramids in Mexico.
Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A Winnipeg City Councillor is furious over a decision to temporarily remove the Hanukkah menorah outside City Hall. Police and city officials say they made the decision in anticipation of a pro-Palestinian rally this weekend. But CBC's Cameron McLean reports Councillor Sherry Rollins says hiding the religious symbol was wrong.
This Hanukkah went up outside City Hall on Thursday to mark the beginning of Hanukkah. 1 day later, it was removed in what officials are calling a precautionary measure. Councillor Sherry Rowland says that sends the wrong message.
It is supposed to be a light, and in Winnipeg, that light should be protected, and it should be protected by having it proudly stand, as it does every year, for years and years, in front of City Hall. Free Palestine!
City Hall has been the site of protests over the conflict between Israel and Hamas. Protests which Rowlands described as peaceful.
Whether you're a protester is going to peacefully protest, or you're a Jew in this city that wants to make sure there's full festival of lights taking place, you're owed some explanation.
The Hanukkah menorah was put back about 24 hours after it was removed. Mayor Scott Gillingham says the decision was made after consulting police.
just out of an abundance of caution. We have menorahs here at City Hall. We have one in the foyer here. There's one in my office as well. So this was simply trying to avoid any potential conflict that may have occurred.
Rabbi Avraham Altein attended another Hanukkah lighting ceremony at the legislature last week. He said he was saddened to hear the one at City Hall had to be taken down, but he wasn't offended by the decision.
I don't know what fears they had, but if they did have, I can't judge in any way.
Jewish Federation CEO Jeff Lieberman said he understands the decision was a proactive measure. In an email, he said, "Whenever groups gather, there is a chance of property damage, either by mistake or malice. We appreciate the measures taken to protect this symbol and ensure its continued presence as part of our city's holiday celebrations this year." Another lighting ceremony is set to take place at City Hall tomorrow. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
2 people were found dead this afternoon in a tent in Winnipeg's North Point Douglas area. The Winnipeg Fire and Paramedic Service says crews were called to a temporary encampment in Joe Zuckin Heritage Park shortly after 1. Paramedics were told 2 people may have been in cardiac arrest. Both were declared dead at the scene. No information was released about either individual. The medical examiner is investigating the cause of death. A frightening road trip has a Manitoba dad demanding some answers. He wants to know how a major car rental company could have sent him and his daughter out onto the highway in a dangerous vehicle. CBC's Rosa Marcatelli has this Go Public story.
The show she wanted to go see were the Sterniolo triplets.
Don't worry if you haven't heard of them either.
I love a little bit of chaos. Weird.
The Sterniolo triplets are YouTubers and mega popular with teenagers. So Winnipeg's Norm Wiley agreed to drive his daughter Sammy and a friend to Minneapolis to see them live.
It was a really big deal.
He booked a vehicle from Budget Car Rental, wanting a newer and safer one than the one he owns. Soon after they hit the road, it started to rain.
And then next thing you know, we're doing 360s down the highway at 100 kilometers an hour. You know, the girls are screaming, I'm screaming. And then we flew like backwards into the ditch.
Grateful no one was hurt, Wiley borrowed his in-laws' vehicle and finished the trip. When he got back, a family member pointed out the lack of tire tread. So Norm took the rental to a tire specialist. The result? The back ones were so bald, the vehicle legally shouldn't have been on the road. Wiley complained to Budget. The franchise owner told him he was already reviewing and redeveloping policies at his locations. He also said tire thieves have been swapping out good tires for bad ones at times, while vehicles were rented out or on the lot.
So basically deflected responsibility.
An industry expert says the recent vehicle shortage is keeping rentals in circulation longer, increasing the risk.
And these vehicles are going to need more maintenance and probably a more robust inspection program.
Avis Budget Group, the head office, wouldn't say if it's doing that. And when Go Public asked, it also wouldn't share copies of its safety and maintenance policies for all its locations.
A recent California law makes rental companies specifically responsible for ensuring vehicles are safe. There's nothing like it in Canada.
It's important that every time that vehicle is returned to a rental facility that it's checked.
No, that was Nick knocked it down, yeah.
The girls say that's something Budget should have done for them.
The car could have just as easily flipped over and we could have like died.
Rosa Marcatelli, CBC News, Calgary.
The province is suspending the sale of 19 Manitoba housing properties. In a statement, Minister of Housing Bernadette Smith says the government is committed to ending chronic homelessness and providing social housing to Manitobans. She says the government is reassessing the sales of the properties. Combined, they have 35 units. All but one of the 19 properties that were up for sale are outside of Winnipeg. Smith says the sales of any Manitoba housing assets are being paused while the review goes on. The redevelopment of 2 massive buildings in downtown Winnipeg may soon take place in a more coordinated manner. CBC's Bartley Kivas tells us about the cooperation in the works for the revitalization of Portage Place Mall and the former Bay Building.
True North Real Estate Development is deciding whether to pull the trigger on a $550 million plan to purchase and redevelop Portage Place. Right next door, the Southern Chiefs organization has a $130 million project in the works to transform the former downtown bay into a mixed-use project called Wewene Begakinagon. The two parties first hinted they may work together back in May when SCO Grand Chief Jerry Daniels attended a True North announcement about Portage Place.
I think there'll be a lot of synergies that are present there.
Both the True North and SCO projects call for housing and healthcare clinics. In November, True North Real Estate President Jim Ludlow said the relationship between the two organizations has evolved.
I think both projects are catalysts for the other. As we've spent more time since May analyzing and looking at Portage Place, I think the more we look at it, the more we see that these projects both have to proceed essentially in lockstep.
Sources tell CBC News True North and the SCO will sign a memorandum of understanding tomorrow. David Thompson, a billionaire True North partner, is expected to attend. Though neither organization is commenting today, True North has called a press conference for tomorrow when it says it'll say more about its Portage Place redevelopment and what it calls a synergized plan to improve downtown Winnipeg. The Premier and the Mayor say they like the idea of both entities working together.
The concept of everybody working together and coordinating is essential for us to be successful in our downtown.
We would certainly encourage folks to work together and to see the True North and Southern Chiefs organization are on the verge of announcing how they're going to work together in a good way. Certainly something that I'm happy to see.
True North will make its announcement tomorrow morning within the walls of what is still, for now, Portage Place Mall. Bart Lakivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Indigenous musicians now have a new national advocacy group. The Indigenous Music Office launched last month. Janelle Henry with CBC Indigenous checked in with a few Manitoba artists to find out just what this means for musicians.
Watching the lightning light. Put it on like you love it, and I put it on. Feeling like you right above it, and I put it on.
Indigenous musicians from across the country can now look for support at the Indigenous Music Office. Dene recording artist Lila Gilday is an advisory member based in Yellowknife. She says the most important thing is that the music office is Indigenous-led.
Much like our colleagues in the Indigenous Screen Office, advocating for authentic Indigenous voices telling authentic Indigenous stories through song.
It's making connections at places like these that hip-hop artist Stun says got him into the business.
Put it on like you love it, and I put it on.
Now the Bunabanabe Cree Nation rapper has 3 albums under his belt, along with his latest single, Put It On.
Gotta see you proud of something, and I put it on.
As a solo artist, you feel like you have to do everything alone, and you have like all of these things you have to learn.
Now he'd like to give back by sharing with his peers in the music industry.
So I'm currently studying financial management right now, and once I'm done that, I'm gonna apply my knowledge to other musicians and kind of like give back to the communities as well.
Take time to...
Ben Klein is working on his next batch of songs. The country rock musician from Duck Bay says he comes from a family of music, and he knows nobody could take over the world by themselves, because business and music can be 2 very different things.
There's a lot of things I have to learn, and in promotion and other things that I can get into the radios to sending my songs and all that stuff.
With a group of industry professionals like Gilday supporting the organization, they are ready to launch.
We sing and play in all different genres, but at the core of it, this is our homeland. This is the only place our stories and songs are told. And it is really important that we come together and in that sovereignty and really advocate for our own voices.
Janelle Henry, CBC Indigenous, Winnipeg.
Politicians past and present gathered at City Hall today for the unveiling of the portrait of former Mayor Brian Bowman. He left politics after 8 years to work in the private sector. Present Mayor Scott Gillingham hosted the unveiling.
All through COVID-19, and on behalf of all of us, I want to thank you for your leadership at that time. That being said, I really hope that this is not the portrait that you unveil today.
The picture that this painting was based on was taken after I left office, and so the fact that I still had a smile on my face says something, because I really did enjoy the opportunity to serve. Like, I mean, hopefully you felt that as well. I mean, always felt quite privileged to be in the role, and so it's the fact that I was still smiling says a lot.
He rolled with the punches in a good way. And I think he just generally had that positive attitude and optimistic outlook about our city that most Winnipeggers and Manitobans agree with.
All right, Mr. Philmitter.
How are you?
Yeah,
thanks.
Yeah, and,
nice to.
This is
nice
beautiful.
To see
you really captured you. I love it.
It's a nice tradition. It's surreal to see, though. I'm glad there's a little bit of color in there. I did tell Andrew, I'm hoping there's a little bit of hope and optimism that you can capture, maybe with some color, and I think he did a great job.
I think he served us well, and with a lot of positivity, and he left things in a good way, where we're proud of his time as the mayor of Winnipeg.
CBC meteorologist John Sauter joins us now. John, it was a windy day today, not only in Winnipeg, but many parts of the province.
Yeah.
And it will continue to be windy tonight, right?
It will, and actually winds have started to pick up again. They dropped off a little bit there just before our news hour, but starting to get gusty again. Let's start with the current conditions. We're at -4 now, and now we've got winds at 31 gusting to 43, and that will continue on through the evening hours and into the overnight. We're still looking at 30 gusting to 50. As a matter of fact, you look province-wide, and you see the brighter colors is where the winds are really gusty. Wasagaming at 54, Brandon as well, 51 in Verdon. Over here in the Red River Valley, picking up a gust of 47 in Winnipeg, Eriksdale at 49. So this does stay with us in the overnight period. If I'm to advance this to about 1:30, you can see that in the middle of the night, we still have some winds that are gusting to 36 to 41. And then on into tomorrow, things do settle down a little bit. So winds will be much lighter through Tuesday afternoon. And on into Wednesday, we've got some little pockets of gusty wind here in the mid-40s by 6 o'clock on Wednesday evening. So, yeah, a couple of days where winds are up and down and generally out of the northwest until we get into the second half of the week. These winds are going to start to shift around and blow in some much warmer air. Spotted a few flurries at around 4:30. You can see those here moving through the area, and we still have a few little snowflakes to come through the Winnipeg area and the southern Interlake here in the next hour or two, and then just a partly cloudy sky through the overnight period. Here's a look at 8:30 p.m. and you can see this little returns here, futurecast. Not really a radar return, but kind of like a future radar. And that really clears out through the overnight period. Tomorrow, a brighter day, but it will be one of the cooler days of the week. Calling it a sun-cloud mix while we have lots of sunshine across northern Manitoba. And then a little patch of snow moves through Wednesday early off to the east before we even get into the afternoon on Wednesday. And here we start to warm up thanks to an upper level ridge. So we do have some warm air to the west. By the time we get into Thursday morning, that warm bunch of air is right over the eastern prairies, northwestern Ontario. Then it moves off to the east, and another batch of warm air moves our way for the weekend. We'll see this in an El Nino year. It will happen from time to time. And then as we get into the dead of winter, we'll still see some of those -30 days, I'm pretty sure. -13, though, tonight. And that is mild. Normal low would be -19, normal high -9. So tomorrow is cooler, but really just closer to seasonal. Sun cloud mix, southwest winds 10 to 20 kilometers per hour. And then we're at -2 Wednesday. And yes, this is a +3 in the sunshine on Thursday and still above 0 on Friday. So Marjorie, the question is, Is this thin little coating of snow going to last through the end of this week? We'll see.
Yeah, we'll find out. Thanks a lot, Sean.
Thanks.
Homes are urgently needed in St. Teresa Point First Nation. The community, about 465 kilometers northeast of Winnipeg, is an isolated island lake community, accessible by plane and ice road for part of the year. It's involved in a class action lawsuit against the federal government over the state of housing. CBC's Aaron Broman and Tyson Koscheck recently visited some of the families most affected, including Christina Wood, who shares her house with 23 others.
Hello. Hi, I'm Erin. This is Tyson. Thanks for having us. Okay. Who all lives at this house?
I live here with my children and my grandchildren. I have 6 children here and 16 grandchildren and 1 son-in-law. The bedrooms are crowded too. I have 5 bedrooms, really small bedrooms, and this is my room.
How many people sleep in here?
8. This is my bed on the floor. I sleep with my baby here, and my daughter sleeps there with her baby at the bottom double bed. 3 sleep here in the closet.
And 3 people sleep there?
3 people sleep here. 2, 1, 2. I only have 1 washroom. It's hectic, especially in the mornings. They get up to go to school, and that's where they change their clothes to get ready for school.
Put that pillow off. Get in.
They live in the living room. 3 twin beds we pull out in the living room on the floor. Cover this bed, get a blanket. And it's hard to feed all of them. There's like 6, 7 kids under my care. I need a big house.
Now, there are about 650 homes in St. Teresa Point, a community of about 4,000 people. 150 of those homes need major repairs. Another 150 have serious mold issues. The chief of the community says about 30 new homes have been built since 2016, and about 300 homes are needed. Now, the chief of St. Teresa Point First Nation says he's beyond frustrated and that overcrowded housing is the most prevalent issue in the community.
We have a housing crisis in our community. It's the conditions over there are so, I would say, third world situations, and it's deplorable. It's not healthy for our community. When you have overcrowding issues in the house, we tend to create more problems when you have more people living in a 2 or 3 bedroom house, and there's like 15 to 20 people living there, and people get on each other's nerves. You can't do your homework. I'm hoping that our families, our nation can get more housing, provide better quality living conditions for our people. And I'm also hoping that it'll spread throughout the First Nations, especially remote nations that I don't have access to all-weather road.
The federal government has unveiled a new $13 billion dental care plan. We'll have more on who's covered and how it will work after the break. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. The federal government has unveiled a new $13 billion dental care plan. It's designed to help people who have an annual household income of less than $90,000 and don't have access to private insurance. Marina von Stackelberg has more.
Nice to see you.
This spring, low-income seniors will be able to visit the dentist for free if they don't already have private health coverage and make less than $90,000 a year. Services like cleanings, fillings, root canals, and dentures will all be covered.
I was talking with a group of seniors who said to me, Mark, this isn't really going to happen. I've had the same dentures for decades, literally, and I don't have the money to replace them. And when I said, no, this is real, it's going to happen.
The dental plan will be phased in. Applications will first open this month to older seniors, aged 87 and up. By May, those 65 and older can apply. In June, the coverage will expand to people with disabilities and anyone under 18 years old. The goal is to get all low and middle income Canadians free dental care by 2025. The cost? $13 billion, a bill the health minister says is a worthy investment.
When I'm talking to oral health care professionals who are devastated by the fact that they're seeing people who, because they don't have access to care, wait until that becomes an enormous crisis in their health and they go into a hospital. The cost of that care is huge.
This plan, part of a deal between the Liberals and the NDP. The New Democrats support the Liberal minority government on key votes in return for programs like this one.
By working in cooperative partnership with our Liberal colleagues, New Democrats have helped secure dental care for 9 million Canadians. It's no exaggeration to say that this is the biggest expansion of public health care in Canada in many generations.
What's still not clear is how dentists will sign up, how much they'll be paid, and whether or not there will be enough of them to meet demand. The Canadian Dental Association says those details will be worked out in the coming months. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
The leadership of Hamas has issued an ominous warning today. It says the lives of Israel's remaining hostages in Gaza are in peril if the Netanyahu government refuses to take part in further negotiations. This as the fighting grinds on for a 10th week. CBC's Sasha Petrusik has the latest.
Israel continues to push across Gaza, its forces in the southern city of Khan Yunis claiming to be destroying Hamas. An enemy, says Israel, which hides weapons in mosques, shown in an Israeli army video. This video from Hamas, on the other hand, insists its fighters are slowing down Israel's advance. Civilians are caught in the middle, enduring daily destruction, like this airstrike in the central Gaza Strip, adding to a death toll that has passed 18,000 Palestinians, say Gaza officials. Many more were pulled from the rubble today, barely alive. We witnessed an appalling massacre, says this man, laboring to get women, children, and infants out with our bare hands. The fighting is further squeezing almost 2 million displaced Palestinians, pushed against the sea in an area just a dozen kilometers square. For God's sake, says one woman, stop this war. We have nothing left. Clean water, food, and fuel are almost all gone, says the UN's refugee agency, UNRWA.
I have warned about the risk that the UNRWA might not be able to continue to operate because of the civil order breakdown.
Jordan has accused Israel of using the humanitarian crisis to push Palestinians out of Gaza altogether, a suggestion Israel calls outrageous.
Israel will take any measures in order to destroy Hamas, but we have no intention to stay permanently in Gaza Strip. We only take care of our security and the security of our citizens.
Still, Hamas rockets continue to fly toward Israel's frightened communities. Most rockets are shot down by Israel's defenses, but the fact they keep flying shows that even with overwhelming force in Gaza, Israel is nowhere near its goal of destroying Hamas. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Toronto.
With the UN Climate Summit set to wrap up tomorrow, there is some dissension among participants. Many are disappointed with the draft agreement. Critics have panned it, claiming it is watered down. Susan Ormiston looks at the frustration among those who have long called for a plan to phase out fossil fuels.
Progress at COP28 to reach a successful agreement before the deadline has been derailed. Hours before that deadline, there was a new draft of the agreement, which didn't go far enough for people who wanted a strong statement on curtailing fossil fuels. The document, which was hailed as a huge step forward by the COP presidency, says countries could take actions, including reducing both consumption and production of fossil fuels. But many were hoping for a much stronger statement, including the words phase out or phase down fossil fuels. They're calling this draft weak and unacceptable.
If we want that historic outcome here at COP28 and we want this process to remain relevant, we need a much stronger articulation of the need to wind down fossil fuels and bring up clean energy.
It's going to be a long night with negotiators poring over the draft to see how and what will be rewritten to make it a unanimous agreement by Tuesday, which is the deadline. But Saudi Arabia and other OPEC countries have already said they reject any mention of phasing out or phasing down fossil fuels. It's now up to the COP presidency to try to save the agreement and come to some consensus on Tuesday. Canada's Environment Minister, who has had a role in trying to find some common ground on the fossil fuel issue here, told us earlier that mentioning fossil fuels in the agreement in some way would be considered a first.
It will be the first time in almost 30 years of climate change negotiations where we address the elephant in the room, our dependencies on fossil fuels. Will the text be perfect on that? I don't think so. But will it signal the fact that there is a global recognition that we need to reduce our dependencies on fossil fuels? Yes.
Tomorrow we expect another draft of the document to see if the UAE can push it over the line and come to a unanimous conclusion to COP28. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Dubai.
Coming up, a Winnipeg Centenarian tells us some of the secrets to a long life, and some of it has to do with pizza. Find out more. Stay with us. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Welcome back. She is 100 years old and still baking pizzas. Antoinetta Lamonaco is an amazing example of relentless hard work. CBC's Zubina Ahmed brings you her story.
Songs, dance, cake, food, friends, and family. A milestone birthday was celebrated for Antoinetta Lamonaco at the Camboto Center on Sunday. By Monday, Lamonaco is at work, where the 100-year-old makes pizza 3 days a week at her family-owned The Original Sorrento's. She still makes her signature pizza and pastas as she has for decades. Her son Jerry translates when she describes her secret to a long life.
Some wine, good food. Like I said, she only has 2 meals a day, and she's always done that. Breakfast and supper. No snacking and nothing in between. And I keep saying, a nice glass of wine every night. Then that's homemade wine too. Just give a picture when she was young.
Lamonaco says his mother came to Canada from southern Italy in the late 60s. The Original Sorrento's has been in Winnipeg since 1975.
So when we were kids, she had to make a decision whether to come to Canada or move somewhere else in Italy. And she moved here hoping to give us a better life. We all met our wives and husbands here, and our family's growing. We have quite a big family, and everybody's quite happy. And like we're all pretty blessed, I have to say that.
Lamonaco retired when she was 65 years old, but the day after, she resumed working. Since then, there was no looking back.
Honestly, I would wish that upon anybody. If you can do that every day, get up at 100 years old and be able to do things. And we're blessed that she can do that. Still make pasta, homemade pasta, still can make pizzas, still can make dough, pizza dough. Oh yeah, actually, she was just saying that when she was 20 years old, she had the bacterial meningitis, and she wasn't supposed to survive, and here she is, 80 years later, still going strong.
With 3 kids and 9 grandkids, Lamonaco continues to work in the restaurant because it keeps her busy and connected to the community.
Oh, nice tomatoes. Pomodoro. Okay, perfect. Many people look forward to retirement and leaving the hustle behind. But even at 100, Lamonaco is still going strong. She says another secret for her long life is being around a family and seeing them happy. Zubina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Weather Update is brought to you by the art and beauty of the National Ballet of Ukraine. January 29th at the Burton Cummings Theatre. Tickets at nationalballetukraine.com.
Yum, 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 yum.
Got a little craving for pizza now.
Yeah.
Oh, she's amazing. She's still doing it.
Yeah, it looks absolutely delicious.
Yeah.
CBC meteorologist John Sauter is here to deliver your, what do you say, not quite hot, but warm.
Yeah,
winter forecast.
A bit of a cool down, and then some warmth on the way that is moving our way by Wednesday, Thursday this week. So yeah, we're going to have a look around the country right now because there is some slightly cooler air just to the west of us, and you look farther west out in BC, and that's some of the warm stuff that's going to kind of make its way across the prairies into the eastern prairies by the time we get to Thursday. We look down east, and pretty mild through Toronto at 0 right now. It's -5 in Ottawa, -1 in Montreal. And here in the Winnipeg area, we still have a few flurries moving through out of the Inner Lake, off the lakes, and down into the northern Red River Valley. So not really an accumulating snow, but you could see a few snowflakes in the street lights or in front of your headlights tonight. But again, not really a coating or anything you have to shovel. Right now, temperatures look like this. Yes, mild for this time of day and mild for this time of year, certainly. -6 out in Brandon and Melita, and a -7 at the moment in Swan River, -8 in Barons River. Farther north, yes, it is cooler in the minus double digits for the most part. Tomorrow will be still on the breezy side, but a nice bright day across northern Manitoba. We'll get there in a second. Tonight, though, forecast conditions for northwestern Ontario, anywhere from -10 to -13 for overnight lows. Still a couple of centimeters of snow and blowing snow around Dryden. So these winds tonight are still around 30 to 50 kilometers per hour, and they will be through the Red River Valley as well. Windy with some light snow up around Barons River, generally 30 gusting to 50, but there are some areas, Steinbach and Emerson, where we could see gusts to 60 through at least the evening hours. And that heavy wind is still out in southwestern Manitoba. In the Dauphin area, 50 gusting to 70 through the evening. It'll settle a little bit overnight, but still very windy. Across the north as well, some blowing snow with a couple of centimeters, maybe even 4 centimeters in Churchill, a couple of centimeters for Gillam, evening light snow through Thompson and through Norway House, and then tomorrow a lot of that moves off to the east. We still have some wind to contend with, but Lynn Lake a high of just minus 20, minus 11 though in the Pas, lots of sunshine, and a cooler minus 16 in Thompson, and again lots of sunshine. Island Lake you'll see a little bit of morning snow, but it should be wrapped up by lunchtime. Here in the south, we're looking at minus 6s generally, and generally a sun cloud mix through the day tomorrow. I think it leans a little more toward the sun than the cloud, actually. Minus 7 in Winnipeg, and temperatures out in northwestern Ontario. Minus 8 to minus 12 for highs, and a little bit cloudier for Dryden.
Thank you very much, John.
You're welcome.
Coming up, the holidays are a joyful time for many. For others, this time of year can be difficult and painful. After the break, we'll hear about a seminar that helps people navigate grief during the holidays. Stay with us. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. For some, it's the most wonderful time of the year. For others, the holidays can be difficult and painful. Palliative Manitoba hosts monthly seminars for Manitobans dealing with grief. This month's seminar is called Getting Through the Holidays. Sean Sagert is a local pastor and funeral celebrant who's leading the seminar. He hopes to help people navigate the sorrow some may face this holiday season. Information Radio's Emily Brass talked with him this morning.
I think the holidays, especially the Christmas season, can be such a difficult time of year for people who are grieving the loss of a loved one, because it's one of those the very important celebrations in our lives that everybody around us seems to be focused upon.
And we have traditions, I guess, that are tied in sometimes with our loved ones.
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes it's very hard for us to navigate those special traditions when one of the most important persons of our family unit is no longer there to celebrate together with us.
So what kind of emotions might be brought up for people who are mourning during the holidays?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's a mixture of emotions, right? I think that grief is many times can be quite complicated, right? Like, it's not just about sadness. There's also some joy as we think about some of the cherished memories that we have of our loved ones. And so, grief can include tears. It can also include some laughter as we think of some of those happy moments. But that's all kind of confusing for people to navigate, especially, they talk about that first year being challenging and being the most difficult, and I think that in part it's because we're navigating these seemingly conflicting emotions at times.
Yeah, and of course people deal with grief differently. Some might seem like they're okay, but are they sometimes just suppressing their feelings?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's hard to navigate how one is feeling, and sometimes we don't necessarily feel the support from those around us. We feel like we have to meet other people's expectations when we are grieving. We think that other people are hoping that we're going to be okay, and so sometimes we want to project that we are okay. And so I think that can be really hard and difficult for people.
So, do you have tips or tools for people who might be trying to do what you just described, or, are just trying to get through the holidays if they're in mourning?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's a saying that people often call upon. It's okay not to be okay, and I think that especially applies to people who are grieving the loss of a loved one. I think that don't feel like you have to meet other people's expectations about how they think that you should be doing. I think it's very much okay for you to take stock about how you are feeling and how you are doing, and then make some choices around that. Like, it's okay to take time for yourselves. It's okay to say to friends and family, you know what, I'm going to sit this one out. Like, I just need some time just to kind of navigate this myself. And it's okay for us to give ourselves permission to grieve the ways in which we want to grieve, because not everybody grieves the same way, and that too is okay.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, some people are watching the person in mourning and, wishing they'd be doing better and trying to cheer them up. But, how can people who aren't grieving really support those that are during this time of year?
Yeah, I think it's very important for those of us who are helping, family or friends who are navigating the loss of a loved one to be sensitive and to ask some questions. I think that when we observe people who are grieving, we feel, I don't want to ask them about the person that they're grieving the loss of, because that may set them off. No, I think the opposite is true. I think that we should take advantage of those moments to say, hey, like, how are you feeling right now? Like, talk to me about your loved one. Like, what is some of your cherished memories about your loved one at this time? And I've often been so surprised that when you ask somebody about their loved one, their face will often light up, because they're looking for an opportunity to talk about how their loved one has made a difference and an impact in their lives and in the lives of others, especially around the special occasions of life.
So this sounds like a really interesting seminar and probably really helpful for people who are grieving. How did you get involved with it?
Oh, that's a long story, Emily. I'm a pastor at Grant Memorial Church, but I'm also a funeral celebrant at Chapel Lawn. And this one time, the person who was supposed to be leading the grief seminar wasn't able to make it, so they called me in at the last moment, and that's how I got connected with Palliative Manitoba. Such a great organization. I'm just so glad that Palliative Manitoba is on the front lines of giving help and support to people who are navigating grief and so many other challenging times.
Well, I'm sure they were glad you were in the wings there to help out. Thanks so much, Sean.
Oh, you're most welcome.
Still ahead, John Sauter is back with your 7-day forecast, and we'll also have your daily lift. Stay with us. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News.
When it comes to your news, you want up-to-the-minute access. Anytime, anywhere. Get the facts straight from the source. Download the free CBC News app or visit cbcnews.ca for news you can trust.
Your 7-day forecast in a second. Now, the sunset tracker, and today the sun set at 4:27. That's as early as it gets all year. A week from now, we'll start to go in the other direction. By evening on Christmas Day, we've gained about 4 minutes from today, and then next week after that, an additional 6 minutes. All right, here's your 7-day forecast, and we are warming up 3 degrees on Thursday, still above zero Friday, and a relatively mild weekend considering the normal high is -9.
Wow, it continues.
Almost beach weather. Well, maybe not, but it can be annoying when someone hogs a lot of space at the beach.
That's right, John. Here now is your Daily Lift. But no one dared to tell that to the large whale that swam up near a beach in Perth, Australia on Saturday. In fact, the marine mammal seemed quite gentle. So some swimmers were seen touching it. There were some concerns about a whale being that close to land, but according to local reports, it returned to deeper waters after about an hour. Very cool.
It just wanted to meet the people.
Yeah.
And then it didn't get stuck, so that's good.
Yeah, I just want to say hello.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you back here at 11 o'clock.
See you later.